The night started out extremely hazy, but started cleaning up around 10:30 or so. So when I started out this sketch, it was just at the beginning, it was starting to clear up a little bit. Um, Regardless, I decided to hold off pulling out the big Dobsonian in favor of the smaller Astrotech. This is a 102 millimeter telescope. I have four telescopes in my collection right now. This one and the 10-inch Dobsonian, which is my primary telescope. I also have a Tasco, an old Tasco 7TE5, which is a 60 millimeter aperture, tiny aperture, but it's got a really long focal length of 1,000 millimeters, which is nice to get those really sharp images of planets. And the optics seem to be pretty good on it compared to the other ones that I have. Um, and then my final telescope is the first one that I ever received, which was a gift last year, a Star Blast 4.5 inch Newtonian. And I used that for the first couple months of observing. It's been fantastic, and I have that at work if I ever feel the need to pull it out, if I'm working late one night or something like that. I've only been observing for this past year or so, um, with any kind of serious intent. And Pleiades is definitely one of those objects in the sky that really catches your attention quickly, right? I mean, it's very visible with the naked eye, even under light polluted skies like my back deck. Um, to me, with my moderately fuzzy eyes that probably need glasses, it just looks like a smudge. I can kind of make out maybe three or four individual stars from my back deck. But definitely with the telescope on it, things pop pretty brilliantly. Also with binoculars, it's a really nice object to put any kind of magnification on. So for the beginning of the sketch here, I primarily plotted out what they call the Seven Sisters. I don't know. Every time I look at Pleiades, I feel like I see eight bright stars there through the telescope. I should probably look up which ones are the actual seven. But anyway, using those as the primary focal point of the scale of the image, and then just getting all the smaller dots out after that. I am looking into other options for pens right now, just to try and see if I can eke out a little bit more refinement in the fainter stars. The night was really starting to clear up a fair amount by this point, so it was making it a little bit easier to pinpoint out all the stars. In general, I think tonight's efforts to make an accurate representation of what I was seeing through the eyepiece in terms of scale of everything, it turned out fairly decent. Some of the stars on the outer edge were a little bit off from the outer edge stars that I could see, but generally okay. To really accent some of those of the brightest stars, I did pull out my acrylic pen to just brighten them up a little bit more and tweak those up a little bit. So overall, I think star placement felt like it was working pretty well. Switch over to the red light just to observe for a little bit. There always seems to be a little bit of some sort of nebulosity or something like that around, as well as the general shining of those stars, creating sort of a blur effect with the atmosphere around it. So I wanted to get all of that into the view as well. For all this work doing more of the nebulous shading through here, I try and use a pretty light touch as much as I can, just so that the Conte doesn't get too heavy on the page. There's going to be a fair amount of smudging going on, and also wanting to do some erasing, so I don't want to get it caked on so much that it's hard to take off. It has been quite fun playing around with using the Conte and the smudge tool to really get some of these more fine cloudy structures into the sketches. But I have been finding that I kind of want to play around with some technique a little bit. There's definitely an appeal to trying to draw images that are realistic, but I also I do enjoy being a little more stylized with things as well. As long as, with these astronomical sketches, it is nice to have a clear representation of what you saw that night, something pretty accurate. But I mean, if I'm perfectly honest, I feel like, well, if I wanted to get perfection, I could just take a little time to figure out how to um, do some astrophotography pretty simply. And I can't imagine that it would be too difficult to start getting images that feel pretty accurate to what you're seeing in the eyepiece over the course of however many minutes you're observing. That being said, I think that there's something really nice about capturing I really enjoy, I guess, capturing the experience in a more visceral way, and slowing things down just in my mind. It's a time to really reflect and think about stuff, zone out a little bit with the stars and things that are kind of familiar, discover new things that are in the sky, as well as just taking the time to really let your eye wander and find new stuff that's up there. Every time I'm sketching, I feel like when I start out an image, it doesn't look exactly as I thought it would by the end. And it's really fascinating to see all these little pieces kind of appearing in the eyepiece that you can sketch down, and only at the very end, when you put them all together, do you really realize what the entire experience of the night was like. And with that, things were pretty much wrapped up on this drawing. Overall, it was a nice, quick sketch. It was a fun night to be out and just observing whatever I could under the hazy skies. And I'm hoping that I get a chance to observe with some clearer skies coming up soon.